Welcome Tony Goldwyn, the director of Conviction. Pleasure to meet you. So there's your mic.
Oh, mic. Okay. Hello.
So this movie took 9 years to get made. Is that right?
That is right. Yep.
What took so long?
I'm just very slow.
Walk on the Moon took a long time. Also.
Yeah, Walk on the Moon was it took 4 years. So, but this was never. It was funny. Betty Ann Waters, who the story is based on, when I first met her about 8.5 years ago, we spent a lot of time talking, and she said to me and Pamela Gray, who's our screenwriter, who also wrote A Walk on the Moon, okay, we've been talking about all of this, and you guys go write a script, but how long will this take? Like, when will we be making the movie? And I said, well, if it takes 18 months, that's incredibly fast. And she went white and said, 18 months? Why does it take so long? So, 9 years later, here we are in Toronto.
Well, let's just delve into this. This is the kind of movie. This is a straightforward, heartrending, very moving drama, which I liked very much. It made me cry. Okay, although I am an easy cry, but still. It's a brother-sister story and a story about extreme sacrifice, but it's also a straight-on drama, and that's probably the most difficult thing to get made, isn't it?
That's exactly right. Dramas, particularly female-driven dramas, are, everything's all about money and about marketing. And with a story like this, a studio needs to understand how they're going to sell it. And with dramas like this, you really need to, as they say, there's a phrase, execution dependent. I've had executives say to me, well, we love it, but it's execution dependent, which means you might screw it up. And so, if it doesn't work 100%, then it can be rather generic and tough to sell. So it's riskier from a marketing point of view. Of course, every year there's a couple of films that are in that mold that are well executed or work, and audiences love them and really react to them, and then
But in this case, you had to get the script just right.
Yeah, just sort of to lay out. I won't take 9 years to tell the story, but I first heard about, the story is about a woman whose brother was wrongfully convicted of murder, and or we don't know that in the movie, so I shouldn't even say that, but who was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. And they were uneducated, very poor kids growing up who really raised each other. And she couldn't survive with her brother in prison. She was a young mother, and she swore she'd get him out somehow. And with a 10th grade education, she went back to school and went to law school and became an attorney to try and find a way to infiltrate the system and get him free. And so I first heard about it on the news when Kenny was exonerated. And I was fascinated with the love story between this brother and sister, and what was that bond, that faith that she had in him, where he could easily have been guilty. She could have spent 18 years and been wrong. The DNA could have been, positive. And so we took a couple of years to work to get the script in shape. We were at a different studio. This was set up at a studio, full studio movie. We're greenlit to go, and one element fell out and the whole thing collapsed. And
who was your cast going to be the first time?
The first time around, we had Naomi Watts. She read the script and fell in love with it and chased it very hard, and I was a big fan of hers, and so she was attached. And then her schedule changed and everything got fouled up, and we were on hold suddenly. And then while we were on hold, I saw $1 Million Baby and thought, oh my God, Naomi's a brilliant actress, but Hillary is the right person for this part. And so I sent it to Hillary, and she was busy, and I was doing another movie, and we just held for a year or so. So that was a downtime. Then I came back, and Hillary attached herself to it, and the studio still wouldn't go for these. Well, we love it, but they wouldn't commit. And I said, look, I've got the right actress. I'm going to make this movie. Please give it back to us, because you don't want to do it. Please just tell me no, which in Hollywood, people don't like to say no. They like to say maybe, or so yes, but.
They put it in turnaround.
So they put it in turnaround, and with the help of one of my producing partners who joined us at that time, Andrew Sugarman, he said, I think I can raise the money for this for you. And we went out and spent 18 months raising the money independently, which was an odyssey I've never been through. And
what would be the difference between the budget of what it would have been at the studio and what you ended up doing it at?
Yeah, that's a great question. The budget at Universal was about $25 million, and we made the movie for 12 and a half, I think. So we cut it in half. And you know what? It was fine. I always said this is a movie that should not have been made for that higher price.
I was just talking to Ben Affleck about this yesterday. I mean, he made The Town at a reasonable level, you know, and he said if it's modestly successful, then it's going to be okay. If I make it a really expensive movie, then it could be a failure.
That's right.
And I wish more people thought this way.
Yeah, you know, I think that's happening more and more. You know, I sort of came up in the 90s when money was just thrown around like every problem, they just threw money at it. And studios were, I think, very inefficient. People had massive overhead deals, and actors had big fat deals. And, you know, and while you were in production, it was just incredible the amount of money that was spent. And that's all changed. The economy has shrunk, and the paradigm of the business is changing. So.
But you've also been working a lot in television as a director.
That's right.
In fact, you've been directing one of my favorite shows, Justified.
Yeah.
I love this show.
Oh yeah, I did one of the early episodes, and then when I'm acting in a Broadway show right now, but when I'm done with that, I'm going to go and do another Justified. Yeah.
Everybody should see this. But you've done Dexter, you've done lots of them. How has the work you've been doing in television informed your directing?
I love working in television. I started doing television because it's so hard to get a movie off the ground that I find it takes 2 or 3 years if you're prolific to get a movie going. You know, if you make a movie every couple of years, you're a prolific director. And I thought, well, I can't just direct every few years. So I also act, so I can be creative in that time. But I got offered a television show, and I thought, well, how long do you have to shoot? And they said, 8 days. I said, how long do you have to prep? 7 days. I thought, I can't possibly do that, so let me try. And that was The L Word, which was a Showtime show. And it was a great workout and a great challenge to do something very fast and make it good. And if the writing is good, which so much television is such great writing and great actors now, I find it makes me more efficient to have a limited amount of time and really aspire to make something as good as it can be by demanding that the script just keep getting better, that we get interesting shots, that you suit the style, not to just the generic style of the show, but what is this episode story about and how can we make it? It's a great workout for a director. So.
Well, back to Conviction, why did you end up changing the title from Betty Ann Waters, which is what it was originally called, to Conviction?
Well, Fox Searchlight, when they came on board, they really felt that was not the right title for it. And they, over the years, it became Betty Ann Waters because we couldn't think of a better title. It just stuck as the Betty Ann Waters Project or Untitled Betty Ann Waters Project, and then it just became Betty Ann Waters. And I think quite correctly, they felt that it wasn't clear what it was. And, of course, you come up with 100 lousy titles, and then I think
Conviction has 2 meanings.
Well, they came up with Conviction, which at first I thought, oh, well, that sounds a little familiar, but then it has a double meaning, which is obviously, the brother in it, Sam Rockwell's character, is convicted of murder, but it's really about this woman's conviction that he's innocent, and so it worked, and I think now, and combined with the artwork and the campaign that they're doing, I think it really is the right title. I'm pleased with it.
The bond between the brother and the sister that you were so interested in is, in fact, what is so moving about this. I mean, this woman sacrifices herself, loses her marriage, just goes all the way, will not give up against what most people... There's this one sequence where she's insisting on finding these papers that everybody tells her do not exist, and she will not give up. What is it about her drive? Why did that happen? Why was there this bond?
Well, it stems back to their childhood. Betty Ann and Kenny really, as I said earlier, raised each other and relied on each other and formed such a... anybody who has a sibling, there's some unfathomable bond that you have with your blood, with a brother or a sister. And combined with their mutual reliance, sort of codependence growing up,
they were kind of abused.
Their mother was not present at all. They were abused. Kenny was in and out of reform school. They were taken away from their mother and put into foster care. They lived in 8 different foster homes, separated from one another. It was a very difficult childhood. And Betty Ann, her approach to it wasn't, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do something heroic. She just had no other choice. She said, she never thought she could become a lawyer. She never thought she could do it. Kenny knew she could, because he had total faith and belief in her, and he said, you're going to do this. But to her, she was an uneducated single mom, or she was married at the very beginning. And she just did it because that's what she had to do. It was like a mountain, and she just had to climb it. So she put one foot in front of the other,
And Swank is extraordinary in it, but in a way we're not surprised, because we've seen her be extraordinary, and this is very good casting. Sam Rockwell is the revelation here in some ways. I mean, this is just a part that he was able to run away with, and he's not really likable. He's sort of a jerk. He's kind of nasty and dangerous, and yet, and you don't know. You're playing along with the audience, sort of teasing them. Is he guilty or is he innocent? Would you explain how you decided to play that rope out?
Yeah, well, it's very important to me in this story, because we've seen stories like this before. Triumph of the Spirit and A Woman Against the System, whether it be Erin Brockovich or Norma Ray or Silkwood, and those are all great films. And there have been many not so great films on similar subject matter. So, I wanted to make sure that this was, you go into a movie like this thinking, okay, well, we kind of guessed that this has a positive ending. But I needed to create tension in the film for two reasons. Number one, from a dramatic standpoint, it would be very dull to say, look at this injustice that's been perpetrated, and look at this amazing woman, and we're going to now watch her prevail, and this lovable, innocent man who's been wronged. That's dull. But so if you create tension and the audience doesn't know, you get two things. You get, oh my God, what's going to happen? But number two, this is the more important point, when we as human beings do extraordinary things, do heroic things, set out to undertake trials that seem impossible, at the moment, most people think we're insane. Most people go, why are you doing this? This is a hopeless cause. You're a crusader. Chances are he is guilty. Everyone else thinks he's guilty. You have children, you have a family. Most people that are extraordinary are outliers, and they seem obsessive compulsive. Only when they achieve what they've achieved do you go, oh my God, look at them. I don't even, starting out, I remember when I started out as an actor, people looked at me like, you want to be an actor? What makes you think you can be successful in this business? Like, you really, you're an actor, you're a loser. And really, when you start out as an artist, people basically dismiss you. And you say, yeah, but I have a dream of doing something. And then, of course, as soon as you're in a hit movie, they go, remember when we met years ago, I knew you were going to be a success. And you go, really? Because you were the one who told me, wouldn't speak to me. And looked at me like I had leprosy.
Was your own family supportive of you when you wanted to be an actor? You come from a very famous Hollywood Goldwyn family.
Yes, that's right. Well, my family was very supportive. My poor father, coming from I come from a movie family, was terrified for me. I think, he thought I was talented in high school plays, but he was honestly terrified for me. It was very difficult for him the first 5 or 6 years when I was a struggling, actor. And, I guess I started working right away, but, it took me about 6 years to get a big break, and he had to bite his tongue a lot to not discourage me. But he remained supportive, and then as soon as he saw that it was working, now I have to beat him up with a stick. He's so excited for me, but yeah.
Now, the other part of this ointment, this thing you put together, is Minnie Driver, and in many ways, she's this sort of entertaining. This is a heavy drama. Was that your intention, to make her sort of a lightning rod, to keep it lively?
Yes. Well, Minnie Driver's character, Abra, who is Betty Ann's best friend, who she met in law school and really helped her through this whole odyssey. That's what she's like. I mean, Betty Ann and Abra's relationship is one of humor. I mean, Abra is very ironic and kind of brilliant, but hilariously funny and always making fun of Betty Ann. So that's the true to life. They're like a comedy act. But from a dramatic point of view, this is a very dramatic story, as you say. And drama doesn't work unless there's humor in it. It becomes self-serious and maudlin and precious. And so any time I'm trying to tell a story that has a real bass note to it, has darkness to it, you have to always find the counterpoint and the humor in it. Juliette Lewis, for example, in the film, has 2 scenes that she's absolutely brilliant in, and one of them is horrifying, but she's funny. The audiences laugh out loud, even though she's a very dark character. So I always try and find the humor.
You went for broke on her makeup, I have to say.
Yeah, right. Well, that was her. You know, she wanted to really go there. Yeah, she doesn't look as pretty as she has in the past. So that's right.
Now, the other thing that happened, apparently there was some really, really heavy scene, and you lost the footage.
Oh yeah, this is a good story. We were shooting. You know, a lot of the scenes take place in the prison, and we're in the visitation room because Kenny was in prison for 18 years, and Betty Ann would come visit him. So many of the scenes are them in the prison, and we had short time to shoot it. So we do 4 or 5 scenes a day over a week in the prison, because this was, as I say, on a pretty tight budget. And our final day was 4 or 5 of the most brutal scenes that they had. Really tough acting assignments. And we finished the day, and it was a very long, like 16-hour day. And Sam and Hillary, I just hugged each other and thought, oh my God, and their work was amazing. And it's over, we did it, thank God. We don't have to do that again, that's done. And the next day, Andrew, my producing partner, came up to me on set at a different location and said, we may have a problem. I said, what? He said the film was x-rayed at the airport on its way to the lab, and it may have been destroyed. The entire day's work. And Northwest Airlines, even though there was do not x-ray all over the thing, they x-rayed it. And a couple hours later, I find out that, in fact, the film has been destroyed. So I take Sam and Hillary into her trailer, and I said, guys, look, we gotta talk. Okay. And she goes into the bathroom, and Sammy says to me, he's like, I was thinking about that scene we did in the prison, and that one moment, gosh, I could have done something different. And do you think that was okay? And I thought, well, it's interesting you should say that. And Hillary comes out of the bathroom, and I sit them down, and I tell them what has happened. At which point, tears burst out of her face. She starts crying, and Sam falls to the floor, clutching his stomach, and starts moaning like, oh God, he's on the floor. And I said, look, okay, we're going to do this. And Hillary goes into denial. She goes, well, it can't be destroyed. Like, maybe some of it's good. So I said, you guys like to consider yourself thoroughbreds, and people think of you as world-class actors. Well, now you got to step up and prove it. And we went back. They said, okay, we want to do it right away. And I made sure we could get the location. We went back the next day, and they were very nervous about it. And it was like a sporting event or something. We sat and we looked at each other and was like, okay, we're going to do this. And the first scene we filmed is the one when Sam finds out yet again that he's not going to be released, that the DA refuses to let him out of prison. And it's very shocking, devastating news, and it breaks her heart to tell him this, and he kind of freaks out. And that was the first one, and we did one take, and it was good, and he said, it's no good. And he said, just give me a minute. And he left the set, and I locked everything. I told everyone, be quiet, get the cameras ready, everyone ready to roll. And he was in this sort of hallway walking back and forth, and it took like 5 or 10 minutes just walking back and forth. And he nodded at me. I said, okay, roll camera. And he comes and he sits down and he does the scene. And most of the film is handheld. And so Adriano, our DP, was holding the camera on Sam. And he just did this, the whole scene is this mind-blowing take. And everyone was like, like that, which was 10 times better than what we had done the day before. And I yelled, cut. And the DP took the camera away from his face and he's crying. And Hillary looked at me and she said, that's his Academy Award. That's right, that take right there. And the whole crew was galvanized by what he did. And so the rest of the day, everyone was so inspired, and so what we reshot was better than what we had at the beginning. So that was quite that was a kind of experience.
So do we have any BBM questions from the audience? No? Okay. So what are you going to do as a follow-up to this? Have you got anything else in mind?
I have a couple of projects I'm working on the script that I've been working on for a while. That I'm working with Christine Vachon, and I'm working on, I have 2 television projects in development, and I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. Honestly, my agents say we're not going to let you consider anything until people see this movie. So I'm going to direct Justified in January when I finish
I'll be back.
my show on Broadway, and so we'll see.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
It's really a pleasure having you.
Likewise.